दोस्तों हम जैसा कमिटमेंट था उससे भी 10 गुना आगे जाके हमने आपको 50 से 60 से ज्यादा मल्टीबैगर दिए हैं इंडियन मार्केट में से। और बहुत से इन्वेस्टर की क्वेरी है कि जैसे हम टेस्ला की न्यूज सुनते हैं, जैसे बीच बीच में हम सुनते हैं कि जेफ बेजोस दुनिया के सबसे रिचेस्ट पर्सन हो गए, फिर इलॉन मस्क का हम सुनते हैं, टेस्ला की न्यूज सुनते हैं। तो इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स पे जिनकी पकड़ है, जो रहते राजस्थान से थे पहले और अभी शिफ्ट दुबई में हो गए पिछले 30 साल से, तो मैं जयकिशन जी जो है उनको बुलाना चाहूंगा। जयकिशन जी इज फ्रॉम राजस्थान बट नाउ सेटल इन दुबई। लास्ट 30 ईयर से दुबई में है और इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस में उनको स्पेशल इंटरेस्ट है। मैं सभी व्यूवर्स को एक चीज बताना चाहूंगा कि आज का जो प्रेजेंटेशन है वो दिल थाम के बैठिए। जैसे प्रशांत सर ने बेहतरीन प्रेजेंटेशन दिया, उसी तरीके का इंटरनेशनल लेवल का प्रेजेंटेशन है। आपकी दिमाग की सभी नसें खुल जाएगी अगर आप ये शांति से एक पूरा घंटा 1 घंटा दे दोगे और फ्रेश होके शांति से सुन लो, क्योंकि इसमें से अलग से चीजें सीखने को मिलेगी आपको। दोस्तों जैसे हमने इंडियन मल्टीबैगर स्टॉक्स देखे तो बहुत से लोगों के मन में क्वेरी रहती है अमेजोन के बारे में, देन टेस्ला के बारे में। जैसे हमने देखा कि कुछ दिन पहले अमेजोन के जेफ बेजोस थे, वो वर्ल्ड में सबसे रिचेस्ट पर्सन हो गए। देन उसके बाद टेस्ला के जो प्रमोटर्स है वो वर्ल्ड में सबसे रिचेस्ट हो गए। तो इनकी वेल्थ इतनी फास्ट क्यों बढ़ी? क्योंकि हमारा जैसा ग्रोइंग इंडस्ट्री का कंसेप्ट है दोस्तों, ये कंसेप्ट यूनिवर्सल है। यही कंसेप्ट हम इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में अप्लाई करके भी देखेंगे आज कि इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में भी क्या हमारा जो सिस्टम है प्रॉफिट फ्रॉम इट का, जो हमारा एक फिल्टर लगाया हमने, वही सिस्टम से इंटरनेशनल मार्केट भी चलते हैं। तो दोस्तों ये जो इंटरनेशनल मार्केट का प्रेजेंटेशन है बेहतरीन से बेहतरीन है। मैं आपको ओपनली चैलेंज के साथ भी बोल सकता हूँ कि इतना बेहतरीन प्रेजेंटेशन एक जगह में आपको देखने को नहीं मिलेगा। तो मैं जयकिशन जी को वेलकम करता हूँ। जयकिशन जी ओरिजिनल राजस्थान से ही है, लेकिन वो पिछले 30 साल से काम के सिलसिले में दुबई में सेटल हो गई हैं और उनका स्पेसिफिकली फोकस रहता है इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस पे, बहुत पैनी नजर रहती है। तो मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आज जो 7 डायमंड्स लेके आए हमारे लिए और हमारे इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए, तो आई वेलकम जयकिशन जी टू प्रेजेंट। थैंक यू सर।
Thank you, Milanji, and good afternoon, everyone. Now, first question which comes to mind is why international companies? Amarnath ji and Ashim ji showed you how India is growing. Dr. Zaid gave you demanding industries. Prashant ji gave you the Indian companies which would be multi-baggers in the future. Then why international companies? So can you write the reasons, or if you can think of any reasons, why should we be investing in international companies? At least I can think of one, okay? Earn money in dollars. Any more? Okay, great. To diversify your portfolio. That's true. Because in India, like there are certain sectors, certain industries which are still not available to a normal investor to invest in. Sectors or industries like genomics, AI, quantum computing, semiconductors, and at present there is shortage of semiconductors in the world. So if you are investing in international companies, it will help you diversify your portfolio. Also, it would give you exposure to certain industries and sectors which are not available at the moment in India. Besides this, your earnings could be in dollars, which could help in your kids' education if they are going abroad to study, or for your travel, or even for your investments also. Now, what we have assumed is an average person making his first foray into investing in international markets. So,
just sorry, Jaikishan ji, just let me check it. Huh? Deepak bhai, I request you to kindly keep at mute because we have seen frequent disturbance. Thank you. Please अपने आप को म्यूट रखिए, राइट, ताकि बार बार डिस्टर्ब ना हो जाए। धन्यवाद आपका। या जयकिशन जी, कंटिन्यू।
Thanks. So what we assume is that an average investor is making a foray of investing in international markets for the first time. So in case if you're doing it for the first time, we suggest that if you have 100, invest only 10% for the moment in international markets. And what we have tried to do is taking this 10%, which companies you could invest in, that's what we have tried to come out with. Now, to help me do this, I have a wonderful team. Yeah, I have a wonderful team. The first is Mr. Prabhakar Patel. I'm sorry, the late Mr. Prabhakar Patel. It was an absolutely shocking news for all of us, and our really heartfelt condolences to his family. Mr. Prabhakar ji, he helped us with his research in 2 of the 7 companies which are here, which I'll be presenting to you all later. So we are really thankful and grateful to you, Prabhakar ji. Then Mr. Pravin Patel, he's my batchmate, and we both did this Profit From It course together in August, and it's always good reconnecting with old batchmates, and it's been a pleasure. He's a businessman from Mumbai, and I must say he has a very keen eye to detail. The next sorry, who's a businessman from Bangalore, and he's very energetic and vibrant. And then the stalwart of our team, Tarun ji, he's an ex-army person, settled in Gujarat at the moment, and he's been always buzzing with ideas, formats, and even the technical analysis slides that you'll see has been done by Tarun ji. And this is me, Jaikishan, and I've compiled all this, and I'll be presenting to you all the international companies. But before I go further, special thanks to Piyush ji sir, Chintan ji, Dr. Milind ji, for all your help, support, and guidance. Now, before I start, let me explain to you the process that we have followed. What we have done is we have taken the top 100 companies of the world, filtered it down to top 25 companies as per market cap. And then what we believe in profit from it is quality plus growth is equal to a wealth creator. So we have tried to apply these parameters to these 25 companies. And then we have come out with the top 7, which we call it the Magnificent 7. So let me show you the top 25 companies of the world. Apple is the number 1. Its market cap is $2.5 trillion, trillion with a T. Followed by Microsoft, almost 2.2 trillion. Aramco, which is Saudi Arabian oil company, around with 1.8 trillion. Amazon with 1.8 trillion. Alphabet, which is essentially Google, with 1.8 trillion, and Facebook with 1 trillion, and these are all trillion plus companies. Now, you would be saying there are some notable absentees in this list. Where is Netflix? Where is Disney? Where is Pfizer, etc.? Sorry, those companies we had to cut off because we had this 25 limit, and 322 billion market cap was our cutoff point. And I did hear a few people mention about Walmart. So keep an eye on Walmart. It's 400 billion almost market cap, and it's 18th in the list here. Now, when we apply the quality parameters to this, the first thing which is there is revenue. Ki dhanda kitna karta hai? What is the revenue? And we see the top company in the world today is Walmart, doing $559 billion of revenue. This is as per 2020. Followed by Amazon, 386 billion, Berkshire Hathaway, 286 billion, Apple 275, United Healthcare 256 billion. These are the top 5 companies in the world as per revenue. Now let's look at how much money they are taking home or how much profits that they are making. So when I look at the profit.
Jaikishan ji, sorry to interrupt. Jaikishan ji, can you please just increase your voice a little bit? बहुत थोड़ा लो आ रहा है, तो लोगों का कमेंट है, मैं बोला चलो आपको इन्फॉर्म कर देता हूँ.
Okay.
थोड़ा अगर इंक्रीज हो पाए तो इट विल बी बेटर.
Minute, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Just your voice. खाली थोड़ा आपका आवाज. Yeah.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. Okay. Continue, sir.
Okay. So the from revenue, which companies are making profits? So if we look at the profits, Apple is number 1, making $57 billion of profits at a healthy margin of 21%, followed by Aramco, 49 billion at 24% margin, followed by Microsoft, 44 billion at 31% margin. So now if you try to correlate the market cap, you can understand why these 3 companies are absolutely at the top of the list. Okay, and where is Walmart? Walmart was doing 559 billion worth of revenue. Their profit is just 14 billion at a 2% margin. So you see the relationship between profitability, margins, and market cap. Then we look at the debt to equity ratio. The companies on the right-hand side are almost debt-free companies. Tesla has a bit of debt, but that is understandable because they are growing their companies of building factories at the moment. Then what we have done is taken the return on equity. This is 10-year average or 10-year mean. So in this, if we look at, we see that MasterCard has the highest return on equity. It's around 64%, followed by Apple around 42%, Tencent Holding, which is a Chinese company, at 29.4%. Now, these are the quality parameters that we have applied. If we combine this with growth, and let us see how it looks like then. So what we have done is we've taken the revenue and the earnings growth 10-year CAGR for these companies. And what we see is Tesla has been growing over the last decade at an astounding rate of 75% CAGR, which is absolutely astounding. Followed with Alibaba. They have been able to grow not only their revenues, but their earnings also at more than 60%. This is just phenomenal. Followed by Facebook, 46 and 41. Tencent Holding, 38 and 35. Now, if we combine quality and growth, we get our wealth creators. So before I show you the top 7, let me tell you about the Chinese companies. And we had a very detailed discussion on this. If not one, I believe 2 of the Chinese companies would have made it to the top 7, if not 1. But unfortunately, the incidents that have happened with Alibaba and Didi, and we couldn't ascertain what is the involvement of the state in these companies, we thought it better to be safe than sorry. So we left out the Chinese companies. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. So leaving these 2 Chinese companies out, here is the list of our top 7, which we call it the Magnificent 7. Okay, and it's in no particular order. Alphabet, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. Any more guesses? Nvidia, and last but not the least, Tesla. So what I'll try to do is go into I'll give you a bit of background information about each of these companies, see what they have done financially in the past, what is their current trend, and we'll try to predict their future, or we'll give you a future forecast. And also, yes, we'll give you the bhav also, at what price you should be buying these companies and what you could expect. And I think that's the most important thing that you would be waiting for. So let's start off with our first magnificent company, Alphabet. So if you look at Alphabet started in 1998. So it's just 22, 23 years old company. And look at the phenomenal growth this company has done. It's doing 182 billion worth of revenue as of last year. The net profits is 40 billion plus, and they have a market cap of 1.8 trillion. Now, what is Alphabet? Alphabet is basically a collection of businesses, the largest of it being Google. And whatever is non-Google business, they term it as other bets. So essentially, Alphabet in very simple terms is Google plus other bets. Now, if we look at Google, they have Google services, which has the Android platform, Chrome, Google Maps, Google Play, YouTube. Besides this, Google has Google Cloud. And their other bets are Waymo, which is into autonomous driving, Calico and Worley, which is into healthcare, and DeepMind, which is into AI or artificial intelligence. Now, where does Google or Alphabet makes its money from? So primarily, they are making their money from performance and brand advertising, and they have a wide range of products which they can service across various devices and formats. Let's look at how much money Google has, or how much revenues Google has been generating. Like if we look at this bar chart, in 2005, Google was doing a revenue of just $6 billion. In 2020, they have grown it to $182 billion. That's a 30x growth in 15 years. It's no small feat. 30x growth in 15 years. And year on year, if you see, their revenues have been growing. This is called consistency. If I look at its profits, they've been able to grow their profits from 1.4 billion in 2005 to 40 billion. That's 27x growth. You can excuse them. In 2017, they had to pay a big fine. That is why you see this dip. And definitely the shareholders' equity has also grown from almost 9.5 billion to more than 222 billion, which is a 24x growth. Now, essentially, Google service is contributing majority of its revenues. That is, out of the 182 billion, 168 billion is coming from Google services. And if we look at the geographies from where the revenues are coming, again, United States and EMEA, that is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, make up almost more than 77% of their revenues. Now, this is a very interesting slide where if you see Google services is contributing more than $54 billion in operating profits. But what is this? Google Cloud and other bets combined are losing more than $10 billion. And $10 billion is no small amount. Yet this company doesn't blink an eye and comes out on the other side with $40 billion profit. And as the founders have put it, Google is no conventional company, and we don't intend to be one. This unconventional spirit has been the driving force of Google and have helped them to make moonshot investments into artificial intelligence and quantum computing. So let us look at the current trend of Google and what, or Alphabet rather, and what they have been doing this current year. So in the first quarter, they have managed to grow their revenues from 41 billion to 55 billion at 34% growth rate. Their profits have grown from almost 7 billion to 18 billion almost. Last year, they made a profit of 40 billion. In the first quarter itself, they have done almost 18 billion. So they've given you to the glimpse as to what we can expect during the year. So if we look at the year, we are expecting Google to grow its revenues from 182 billion to 228 billion this year. Their profits from 40 billion to 60 billion, which gives it an earning per share of 89. And based on this earning, we believe the fair price of Google should be $2,200 approximately. And if Google can grow this in this decade at just 20%, and they have done it in the past also. From current 182 billion, Google would be doing revenues of $1.1 trillion. Again, a trillion with a T. $1.1 trillion in 2030. Net profits from current 40 billion would be close to $250 billion, which gives it an earning per share of around 358 and a fair price of $9,000. Now, if we look at it technically, you can see the chart. Google is in rally mode because lifetime high revenues year on year, lifetime high profits year on year. You'll see lifetime high prices. And share market is nothing but just a reflection of the earnings. If it corrects, the right buying range would be around 14 to 1700. Fundamentally, we are getting a value of around 2200. So from 2200 onwards, you could start accumulating this stock if you want. And the allocation out of the 10% that we were discussing, you could allocate 2% to Alphabet. Let's move on to the next magnificent company, which is Facebook. Again, if you see Facebook, it just started in 2004. And this company main mission is to bring the world closer together, to connect family, friends, and communities and grow businesses. And in this short span of time, they've been able to grow their revenues as of 2020 to $86 billion, profits to $29 billion, and they currently have a market cap of $1 trillion. So what are the products that Facebook has? It's Facebook itself, Insta, Messenger, WhatsApp. We all use this, and Facebook Reality Labs. This is one of their future products where they'll they are investing into AR and VR, and we'll hear a lot more of it during the decade. Now, if we were to look at the revenues of Facebook, since 2007, they were doing a turnover of only $153 million. From $153 million, they have grown to almost $86 billion, which is an astounding growth rate of 562x at a CAGR of 63%. And again, if you see the consistency year on year, the revenues have been growing. If we look at the profitability, couple of years, it was making losses, but once they turned profitable, that is in 2009, they have been consistently growing their profits, barring a couple of years. And from 122 million, they have grown it to 29 billion, that is 239x at 65% CAGR. And the shareholders' equity has grown from 335 million to 128 billion, which is 383x. Now, where does Facebook generates most of its revenues from? Again, it's from advertising, which is 98% of its revenues. And United States, Canada, and Europe are contributing almost 78% of its revenues. Now, these are certain important parameters if we analyze Facebook to look at their daily active users. In 2019, they had 1.5 billion active users, and they're able to grow it to 1.8 billion in a matter of just 2 years. If we look at the monthly average users, again from 2.375 billion, they have grown to 2.85 billion in a matter of 2 years. And how much money each user is paying, or the average revenue which Facebook is generating per user, it's $9.27. But if you look at US and Canada, it is generating for them $48 per user revenue. And this is the highest. So if we look at Facebook, Facebook understands that there are certain headwinds this year. There are regulatory and platform changes which might impact in the second quarter. And then the management of Facebook is aware of this, and they've already started investing in AR, VR, commerce, and creator economy, as Mark Zuckerberg, their founder and CEO, puts it. If we look at the current trend this quarter, what Facebook is done, they have been able to grow their revenues from almost 18 billion to 26 billion. That's a strong growth of 48%. Their profits from almost 5 billion to 9.5 billion, that's 94% growth. So we are assuming that there would be some headwinds, so their revenue and profit would grow only by 25 and 50% this year. Taking this into consideration, this translates into revenues of 112 billion from the current 86 odd billion. Their profits to 43 billion from current 29 billion, which gives it an earning per share of 15 and a fair price of almost $400. Currently, Facebook is at $370 in the market, so it's slightly underpriced. In the future, if we look and give it that Facebook can grow at a very conservative 20% growth rate, and if you look at their past, they've grown at a much, much higher rates than 20%. Even if we consider a very conservative 20%, they could be doing revenues of more than $500 billion, profits of 180 billion in 2030, which gives it an earning per share of 63 and a pay price of almost $1,600. If we look at it technically, in case if Facebook corrects and comes down in the range of 250 to 300, it could be a very good point to accumulate it, and you could allocate 1% to Facebook. The next company is Tesla. This is one of the most innovative and interesting companies which I have analyzed. And if you see this company, again, it's just started in 2000. 3. Currently, it belongs to the automobile sector. And they are doing a revenue of $31.5 billion, a net profit of $690 million. And what's this? Market cap of $653 billion. Is it a mistake? I repeat, 31 billion revenue, 690 million profits, market cap of 653 billion. What are they into? Okay, Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And to do this, they basically manufacture electric vehicles and clean energy. And Tesla believes in selling products directly to their customers through direct shipping or through their retail stores. If we look at its revenue growth, Tesla has grown its revenue in 2008 from 15 million to 31.5 billion. This is more than 2000x growth and 89% CAGR. 15 million to 31.5 billion, 2000, more than 2000x growth. Please try to understand this is exponential growth. But when I look at its profitability, what is this? They've been losing money. But there's a silver lining over here. For the first time last year, they've turned profitable. They've made a small profit of 690 million. Could this be the turn of the tide and the trend upwards? Let's see. If we look at the shareholders' equity, they've managed to grow their shareholders' equity from a mere 2.7 million to 23 billion almost, which is 111x growth. And if we see the revenue breakup, almost 94% of the revenues is coming from EV sales and a small 6% from energy. Now, what is it that Tesla has 653 billion market cap? When I looked at the other manufacturers and reputable and established ones like Volkswagen, Toyota, GM, Ford, Merck, BMW, combined, all these 6 top manufacturers are selling almost 32 million vehicles, doing a combined revenue of $1 trillion. Yet the market cap is just 660 billion. And we have Tesla on the other side, which didn't even sell 500,000 vehicles last year, has a revenue of 31.5 billion and a market cap of 653 billion. So I ask you all a question. Assuming you are richer than Jeff Bezos and you have 660 billion to invest, where would you put your money? On these 6 manufacturers who make internal combustion engine or ICE, or Tesla, which is making EV vehicles, basically electric vehicles which are run on batteries and charged with electricity? Please, you can give your comments. Where would you be putting your money? On these 6 manufacturers or Tesla? And to understand why Tesla has such a high market cap, let us first look at the vehicle industry as a whole. Like in 2020, around 80 million vehicles were sold worldwide, out of which EV sales was just 2.2 million. Now, ARK Invest believes that EV sales will grow from 2.2 million to 40 million at an 82% CAGR by 2025. So from 2.2 million currently to 40 million in 2025, but provided these ICE manufacturers also start producing EV vehicles, then only we'll be able to achieve this. So what we have done is, on a conservative basis, we have assumed that the EV sales would grow to 40 million vehicles, but not by 2025. We've just extended the time horizon to 2030, which gives it a CAGR growth of the industry to grow at 34% CAGR. Now let's bring Tesla into the context. Last year, EV sales was 2.2 million. Tesla doing 500,000 sales. Let's give it rounded off 25% market share. Move forward to 2030, 40 million EV sales. Tesla is able to maintain its market share of 25%. So which translates into 10 million vehicles. So 500,000 to 10 million vehicles. That is 20x growth. So I hope you understand now why markets are giving Tesla such a high market cap, and market is nothing but a future discounting machine. Now, if Tesla has to do 10 million worth of sales, do they have the capacity to do it? Currently, Tesla is producing Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X. And they have a capacity of doing almost 600,000 vehicles in their Fremont factory in US. The Jaikishan factory is currently has the capacity to produce 450,000 vehicles. Now, this facility can be ramped up to 1 million in the next couple of years. Further, Giga Berlin and Giga Texas are supposed to come online with an initial capacity of 500,000 each by end of this year or early next year. And these also could be ramped up to 2 million vehicles each in the next 2 years. So if I add all these together, currently they are doing around 1,050,000 vehicles is the current production capacity. This could grow to 5.6 million in the next couple of years. And then they have another 7 years to reach 10 million, which is quite possible. Further, if I look at their lineup, they have Cybertruck, Tesla Semi, Roadster, and a future product, which they are talking about, a $25,000 car. And for those who love cars, Tesla last month launched the fastest car in the world. Watch this, the fastest car in the world. Tesla was supposed to be the producer of safest cars, and they have the safest and the fastest car. Isn't it an outsmart? Yes, they produce Tesla Plaid, which can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles in less than 2 seconds. And hats off to the Tesla engineering genius. 0 to 60 miles in less than 2 seconds. It's the fastest car in the world today. Tesla is further developing full self-driving. And to do this, they have developed a supercomputer, which they call it Dojo. Now, currently, there are around 1 million Tesla vehicles sold so far, which are feeding in data into the supercomputer Dojo, and they have collected 30 billion miles of data. I repeat, 30 billion miles of data. The next best competitor is Google Waymo, which has 30 million miles of data. So 30 million miles versus 30 billion miles. Absolutely no competition. And forget those ICE manufacturers. Probably they haven't yet started on this also as yet. So if they are able to solve this full self-driving thing, which they are on the cusp of solving it, they could deploy this software over the net, which could give, or robo-taxis could come into existence. What it could mean is, instead of your car being parked, it could go and earn money for you. So your car could become an appreciating asset rather than a depreciating one. And Tesla is leading the industry transformation from ICE to EV. Besides making EV, they're also into energy storage products, where they harness the solar, the wind, and they have the Tesla power walls, which is essentially a battery where they can store this energy. And Tesla is one of the largest global supplier of battery energy storage systems, with 3 gigawatt hour of battery storage supplied in 2020. Now, if we are to look at Tesla is making these vehicles energy storage, how does it translate to in numbers? This year, in the current quarter, Tesla has been able to grow its revenues from 6 billion to 10.3 billion, which is a growth of almost 74%. Their PAT has grown from 16 million to 438 million. Last year, if you remember, they just did 690 million of profit. First quarter, 438 million already done. So if we are to what we can expect at the end of this current year, Tesla, we are expecting would grow their revenues from 31.5 billion to almost 55 billion, the net profits from 690 million to 2000 to almost 2.2 billion, and which gives it an earning per share of 2. Tesla themselves, they believe that this industry, if it's growing at around 34%, they themselves can grow almost 50%. What we have assumed is their growth rate to be 40% and profit rate to be around 45%. And if we apply this, this translates in 2030, Tesla would be doing a revenue of 1.1 trillion, again trillion with a T, and a net profit of 62 billion. So let's try to get this. Currently, $31 billion in revenue, 2030, 1.1 trillion. Currently, 690 million in profits. 2030 expected is 62 billion in profits, which gives it an earning per share of 65 and a fair price of more than $3,000. And that techno king Elon Musk was asked about competition, and this is what he had to say: second place should need a telescope to see us. Now let's move on to the next magnificent company. Sorry, before we move on to the next company, let's look at Tesla. Technically, Tesla is in an accumulation range where you could, if you are doing SIP, you could slowly accumulate Tesla. If it comes down to 550, you could buy in lump sum. It would be a good area to buy Tesla at around 550. And the portfolio allocation is 1%. Now, if we look at the next company, that's Nvidia.
Sorry to interrupt you. The thing is already 38 minutes is over, and 22 minutes is only left out of 1 hour. Piyush ji, we are already
Fine. I'll
30
complete it in
minutes is
20 minutes.
out of schedule. तो हमको और 10 मिनट लगेगा लगता है. So around 45 minutes will be the our end of this section.
Yeah, no problem. 22 minutes will be enough, I think so. है ना Jaikishan ji?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think I'll be able to complete in the next 20 minutes.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Partha ji.
Thank you. So the next magnificent company is Nvidia. They belong to the semiconductor industry. This industry at the moment is not available in India. If you look at what their founder has to say, Nvidia specializes in accelerated computing and innovates at the intersection of computer graphics and high-performance computing and AI. Note this word, AI. Currently, their revenues is 16.7 billion, profits of 4.3 billion, market cap of almost 500 billion. And recently, there was a split. So that is why there was a 1:4 split, and that is why the current price is at 195. It's come down from 700 or 750 odd. So this is Nvidia. I've tried to put it at a glance. I'll just go through the main points over here. In 2001, if you see, Nvidia won the Xbox thing. That is, Xbox is produced by Microsoft. They won that contract, and they were the fastest semiconductor company to reach $1 billion in sales. They have graphic processing unit, which they call it the GPU, which is mainly used for gaming. And as you can see, initially they were into supplying these GPUs for gaming, but over time they've diversified into data centers also, which has been a major contributor of their revenues. And then in 2016, for the first time, they had introduced products related to artificial intelligence and autonomous driving. And these semiconductors are the main driving force behind AI and autonomous driving. And you know who's making these chips, Nvidia. And if you look at Nvidia, they've been able to transform themselves from just manufacturing chips to a computing platform. And what this has done is, this has enabled them to grow their gross margins from a mere 30% to 60%. So if we look at Nvidia's revenue growth, in 2005, they were doing a revenue of $2 billion. For almost a decade, it was muted growth. But over the last 5-6 years, we have seen this exponential growth. And if you relate back to the chips in AI and autonomous driving, has helped them grow this, as well as data centers have helped them achieve this growth. So if we look at it over a 15-year period, it's 8x growth. Again, in their revenues also, they've managed to grow their revenues from 89 million to 4.3 billion. That's 49x growth. There have been minor dips and losses on the way, but their growth has been really good. They managed to grow the shareholders' equity also from 1.1 billion to almost 17 billion, which is 14x growth. Now, the core business is manufacturing chips for gaming, which is contributing almost 47% of their revenues. Data center, which is 40%. So combined, these two at the moment is generating 87, helping Nvidia generate 87% of their revenues. Professional visualization and automotive is 6 and 3, but these are the growing sectors of the future. So what are the growth drivers For Nvidia, it's gaming, artificial intelligence, AR and VR, and self-driving cars. And they are already set for the computing age of AI with their chips already ready to be supplied for AI, and the addressable market by 2024 would be more than $100 billion. So currently, Nvidia is doing $16 billion of revenue. By 2024, the addressable market would grow to $100 billion. Besides this, Nvidia are planning to acquire another company called ARM, which is into manufacture of chips, and 90 to 95% of mobile phones have these ARM architecture chips. So ARM is a very important, could be a very important acquisition for Nvidia if the regulators approve it and if it goes through next year. And this is what their founder has to say. We are buying ARM because we want to advance computing further. The future of computing is going to move further from cloud to edge. This is what ARM is fantastic at. Where we are fantastic at is AI. So imagine the possibilities of putting AI at the edge. Besides this, Nvidia also has chips which is for professional mining for cryptocurrencies. And the future lineup of chips which are going to come out is Nvidia Grace. This is for AI and high performance computing. The chips would be used in Alps, which is expected to be the fastest supercomputer for artificial intelligence. Nvidia AI on 5G, they're already testing this out with Google. And they'll have cyber security providers, they're enabling cyber security providers to develop AI solutions that can instantly detect cyber breaches. These are the few products which are in the pipeline, which will be coming out from Nvidia. So Nvidia is not just another chip maker. They are leading in multiple areas, from gaming to machine learning to autonomous driving to artificial intelligence to medical imaging. And some in the industry call them the king of AI. So let's see what they have done in the current quarter. In the current quarter, they've able to grow their revenues from 3 billion to 5.6 billion, which is a growth of almost 84%. Their PAT has grown from 917 million to 1.9 billion, which is more than 100% growth. So what we can expect this year is they'll be able to grow their revenue at 50% from 16 billion to 25 billion. Their net profits from 4.3 billion to 7.3 billion, which gives it an earning per share of 3 and a fair price of around 132. If we estimate again conservatively a growth rate of only 20% for Nvidia, their revenues in 2030 could be 86 billion, profits around 22 billion, giving it an earning per share of 9 and a fair price of close to $400. If we look at it technically, it's in a rally mode. We have to wait for a correction, and around 125 to 150 you can accumulate, and portfolio allocation could be 1%. The next amazing company is Amazon. Now, if we look at Amazon, Amazon has continuously tried to raise the bar of customer experience by using internet and technology. And this company is the most customer-centric company on this earth today. They have a revenues of 386 billion. So as per revenue, they are number 2 in the world today. Net profits of 21 billion, a market cap of $1.8 trillion. Currently, their share price is 3,655. Now, if we look at Amazon in 1994, it just started as an online marketplace for books, and they expanded into electronics, apparels, furniture, jewelry, and today they have become the largest online marketplace, AI assistant provider, live streaming platform, and cloud computing platform. And they have a very high market cap. It's one of the most valuable brands. In 2015, they surpassed Walmart by market cap to be the most valuable retailer in US. And currently they have acquired in 2017 Whole Foods, which has helped them increase their footprint in physical retail also substantially. If we look at revenue growth, again, you'll see the consistency of their revenues growing year on year from 8.5 billion to 386 billion. That's 45x growth at 29% CAGR. If we look at their profits, from a mere 359 million, they've been able to grow their profits to 21 billion. That's 59x growth at 31% CAGR over 15 years. And the shareholders' equity has also grown from 246 million to 93 billion. That's 380x growth. And if you look at the revenues, where the revenues that Amazon generates from, they generate most of their revenues from North America. For other markets, they call it international, and both places basically retail sales. And if you look at AWS, that is Amazon Web Services, this is contributing only a small 12% to their revenues. That's around $45 billion. But when I look at the profitability side, AWS is contributing $13.5 billion in operating profits. So 45 billion in revenues, $13.5 billion in profits. This is what is the main distinguishing difference between Amazon and Walmart. And that is why today Amazon has such a high market cap. Now, as Jeff Bezos himself put it, Prime and AWS are his two children, aged 10 and 15, and they are coming of age and have started contributing to Amazon's profits. Prime has grown its members to 200 million, and these are paid members. And if we look at AWS, as we discussed, it's contributing, it's just 15 years old, and it's contributing, a major contributor in Amazon's profitability. And these are the few products which would be coming out on AWS for Amazon. Now, if we look at what Jeff Bezos had to say in his first shareholders letter, he's had a vision of an enduring franchise for Amazon, where they would be serving the customers, unlocking the internet's power. And along the way, they created $1.6 trillion of wealth. This is as per last year. And Jeff Bezos himself owns 1/8 of it, and makes him the richest person on earth today. So let's look at, if we invest in Amazon today, would it help us create wealth? Amazon in the current quarter has grown their revenues from 75 billion to 108 billion, a growth rate of almost 44%. Their profits have grown from 2.5 billion to 8 billion. That's 219% growth in the first quarter itself. So what we can expect for the year end, we expect Amazon to grow their revenue from 386 billion to 482 billion this year. That's at 25% growth rate. Profits to grow from 21 billion to almost 32 billion. This gives it an earning per share of 64 and a fair price of 4,300. So fair price for Amazon as of currently is 4,300. And if you remember, share price currently in the market is 3,655, if I'm not mistaken. If you see Amazon, their revenues have grown consistently over any period in excess of 20%. Their profits also more than 20%. However, we are just on a very conservative basis, taking their long-term growth to be at 20%. And if we apply this, we get $2.3 trillion or almost $2.4 trillion of revenue in 2030 for Amazon and a profit of 132 billion. So currently Amazon is doing 386 billion. So from 386 billion in 2030, you could expect them doing $2.4 trillion, trillion with a T. And probably Amazon could be the #1 company by revenue in 2030. So this translates, they should be having an earning per share of 264 and a share price of around $18,000. If I look at it technically, yeah, if it corrects and comes down in this, you could accumulate now also as per fundamentals. It is below its fair value. And technically, if you look at it, the good accumulation range would be between $3,000 to $3,500. And we suggest 2% portfolio allocation for Amazon. The next company, I don't need to say much about this company, Apple, which most of you know about and would be using. It's one of its products. Apple has been able to grow and the current revenues are at around 274 billion. Net profit is 57.4 billion. And this is the highest net profit currently by any company in the world. That is why they have highest market cap. That's around $2.5 trillion. Apple's mission is to bring the best personal computing products and support students, educators, designers, scientists, engineers, business person, and consumers. Who else is left? I don't know. In over 140 countries around the world. And Apple basically designs and markets smartphones, personal computers, tablets, wearables, and accessories. There are around 1.6 billion Apple products in use worldwide. And it's one of the most valuable brands. They sell directly and indirectly to consumers. And 34% last year accounted for direct sales and 66% through indirect sales through their channel distribution. Now, if we look at the revenue growth of Apple, barring 1 year in 2016, they've been able to grow their revenues from 14 year on year. In 2005, they were doing a turnover of 14 billion almost, currently 274 billion, which is 20x growth. Their profits have grown from 1.3 billion to 57.4 billion currently. That's 43x growth. The shareholders' equity has grown from 7.4 billion to 134 billion, but there's been a drop in the last 3 years. What is this? Apple is generating so much cash that they are rewarding their shareholders through dividends and buybacks. So that is why you see a decrease in the shareholders' equity. If we look at their segmental revenues, iPhone is contributing the maximum, that's 50% of their revenues, followed by services. Yes, services, almost 20%. Followed by wearables, around 11%, iPad 8 and Mac 10. Again, most of their revenues, almost 70% of it is coming from United America and Europe. Now, these are the products which Apple makes, and all of us are familiar with these: iPhone, Mac, iPad, wearables like AirPods, Apple TV, Apple Watch, Beats products, iPods, AirPods, and other wireless headphones also. But one common thing in all this is iPad. For all these products is Apple has its own operating system for each of these products. And if we look at services, which contributes almost 20% of its revenues, they have advertising services, Apple Pay, cloud services, digital content, and payment services, where Apple Pay is a cashless payment services, and this could grow very fast. So, as Tim Cook himself puts it, our whole goal in life is to give you something that you didn't know you wanted, and then once you get it, you can't imagine the life without it, and you can count on Apple doing it. How true this is. You never want an Apple, but once you get it, you can't imagine life without your Apple product. So let's see what Apple is done in the current half. The year end is 30th of September. So in the first half, as of 31st of March, they've been able to grow their revenues from 150 billion to 200 billion, which is a good growth of 34%. Their profits have grown from 33 billion to 52 billion, which is 56% growth. On a conservative basis, we are estimating revenues would grow by 25% and profits by 45%.
Jaikishan ji?
Translates into 343 billion in revenues, $86 billion in profits, $86 billion in profits. So this would be the highest profits to be made by any company in the world, and we believe Apple would still be able to maintain its market cap in the current year also, and which gives it an EPS of 5 and a fair price of 94. In 2030, we are expecting Apple to grow its revenues to 879 billion and net profits to more than 200 billion, which translates into an earning per share of 18 and a fair price of 341. And technically, if we look at it, the good buying range for Apple would be if it corrects around 110, and we suggest 1.5% portfolio allocation. Sorry, Partha ji.
सर जयकिशन जी, अभी एज पर आवर टाइम है ना, अभी टाइम हो चुका है, अब हम लोग थोड़ा सा बढ़ाना पड़ेगा और 5-10 मिनट्स.
5 minutes, just give me 5 minutes. Last company is left Microsoft, and then it will be just a conclusion.
हाँ, you can take your own, but आप देख लीजिए.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So Microsoft also is a company whose products most of us have been using since ages. Microsoft's current revenue is 143 billion, profits of 44 billion, a market cap of 2.2 trillion. And Microsoft's mission is to empower every person and every organization on this planet to achieve more. If I go through a quick history of Microsoft, initially it was MS-DOS. Since 1975 to almost 85, it was MS-DOS. Then they ventured into Windows and Office. Then it was a foray into web, Windows 95 and Xbox. Then from 2007, it was cloud computing, Microsoft Azure. Windows Vista, Windows 7. From 2011 to 14, it was Windows 8, Xbox, Outlook, Surface devices. 2014 to 20, it's Windows 10, Microsoft Edge. And 2020 to present, it's acquisition, Xbox Series and Windows 11. These acquisitions, they are planning to grow inorganically also. If we look at their revenues, Microsoft has been able to grow its revenues from almost 40 billion in 2005 to 143 billion, that's 4x growth. Their profits from 12 billion to 44 billion, that's 4x growth. Their shareholders' equity from 48 billion to 118 billion. Again, this company also, like Apple, rewards its shareholders through dividends and buybacks. Their segmental revenues are equally distributed between productivity and business processes, intelligent cloud, and personal computing, almost 33% approximately each sector. For the future, we believe where Microsoft could grow is applying AI to drive insights, using their Windows platform to fuel cloud businesses and Microsoft 365 strategy, and coming out with innovative consoles for their gaming products. And as Satya Nadella himself puts it, longevity in this business, it's being able to reinvent yourself or invent the future. So if we look at Microsoft, the current 9 months performance, they have been able to grow their revenues again from 105 billion to almost 122 billion, which is 16% growth. They profit from 33 billion to 45 billion, which is 35% growth. So what we are expecting this year, they should be ending the year at almost 166 billion in revenues, profits of 60 billion, which would be growing from 44 billion, earning per share of 8 and a fair price of 181. For 2030, assuming a growth rate of 11 and 14%, we expect their revenues to be 393 billion, their profits to be 160 billion, and a fair price of 559 for Microsoft. And if we look at it technically, the good buying range for Microsoft could be in 200 to 235 range, and a portfolio allocation of 1.5%. And in case if somebody was still sleeping or have missed out something, don't worry, we have a summary sheet where you can get it at a glance, the majority of things that we've spoken about. So this is an important slide and a summary of these 7 top companies. Now, the other question which should be coming to your mind is, can Indians invest in the US stock markets? Yes, you can invest in India because RBI has come out with the RBI liberalized remittance scheme, under which they allow Indians to transfer up to $250,000 for investments abroad. And I guess that's it from my side. Thank you and happy investing. And sorry, Parthaji, I exceeded.
Thank you, Jaikishan ji. Because of you, we are enlightened. International market में हम लोग कैसा निवेश कर सकते हैं, क्या-क्या निवेश कर सकते हैं, आप खुद बताएं. We are very happy.
Thank you, Parthaji.
Yeah, thank you, Jaikishan ji. Honestly, भले भी टाइम लगे इसमें, लेकिन ये जबरदस्त प्रेजेंटेशन था, इन डेप्थ. ऑनेस्टली मतलब आप रिव्यू भी देखोगे सबके, तो सबका एक्सेलेंट प्रेजेंटेशन आ रहा है. तो एक तो ये टॉपिक पे इंफॉर्मेशन कम अवेलेबल है, पहली चीज. दूसरी चीज, मैं सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को बोलना चाहूंगा कि जयकिशन जी ने सभी जो डाटा लिया वो एनुअल रिपोर्ट से लिया है. 10-10 साल के एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स उन्होंने पूरे स्टडी किए हैं, जो 200-300 पेजेस के रहते हैं. तो हर एक कंपनी का इतना डिटेल में महीना भर से उनकी मेहनत है जबरदस्त। तो ये सब प्रेजेंटेशन आपको हम जरूर शेयर करेंगे, बट इट वाज अमेजिंग डाटा। थैंक यू जय किशन जी। एंड हम जरूर ये सब 7 जो कंपनी है उनको हर साल ट्रैक करेंगे, और जय किशन जी हमें उनके बारे में हर बार अपडेटेड गाइडेंस देते रहेंगे। मैं पीयूष सर को बोलूंगा कि कुछ कमेंट उनके ऊपर बता दें।
जय किशन जी, that was a wonderful data study, right? इतनी सारी कंपनियों का आपने जो सेल्स ग्रोथ, हिस्टोरिकल प्रॉफिट ग्रोथ, जो डेब्ट टू इक्विटी रेशियो, जो आरओई, ये सारी चीज जो आपने निकाला, इतना डेटा, दैट वाज अमेजिंग। तो ये आपको और आपकी टीम को एक जबरदस्त धन्यवाद और अभिनंदन। पूरी टीम ने बेहतरीन काम किया है, राइट? सो thumbs up from us, और बहुत बढ़िया आपने प्रेजेंट किया।
Yeah, thank you, and sir, all credit goes to the team. They did for absolutely amazing, and it's been my privilege to lead such a team.
Right. So बढ़िया, और इसी को हम फॉलो अप भी लेंगे जय किशन जी, राइट? आज जो आपने प्रेजेंट की है कंपनी, इन कंपनियों को हम ट्रैक भी करेंगे, एंड नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑल्सो वी आर गोइंग टू सी कि चलो इसमें कुछ प्लस माइनस है क्या। बाकी वी होप दिस आर योर मैग्निफिसेंट 7, और ये 10 साल परफॉर्म करने ही वाले आने वाले भी, बराबर ना जय किशन जी?
Yes, sir.
या वंडरफुल। और मिलिंद भाई
जी सर, सर
जरूर
अभी
बहुत लोगों को क्वेरीज होगी, है ना?
100% मैं वही बोल रहा था कि जो टॉप क्वालिटी कंपनी है एंड इंटरनेशनल बिजनेसेस के ऊपर तो हमने इनको टाइम दिया था, तो अभी 3:45 बजे है, तो आई थिंक वी शुड कंटिन्यू विद क्वेरीज। 15 मिनट क्वेरी ले लेंगे।
हम लोग क्या करते हैं
जी सर,
मिलिंद जी, 3:45 मतलब 3:47 हो गया है,
यस सर,
फ्रॉम 3:47 टू 4 o'clock हम लोग क्वेरी सेशन लेते हैं,
डन सर,
राइट? 15 मिनट का ब्रेक रखेंगे, टी ब्रेक, और हम 4:15 को वापस आ जाएंगे 2 जबरदस्त सेशन के लिए।
यस,
पोर्टफोलियो कैसे बनाए,
यस सर,
बराबर है?
करेक्ट,
और वंडरला और बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज से जो हमारे मेहमान आए हैं उनसे बातचीत करने के लिए,
यस
राइट?
श्योरली
चलिए,
सर।
तो लेट अस ओपन विंडो फॉर
या
क्वेरी सेशन।
क्वेरी सेशन के लिए ओपन करते हैं। यस सर।
या योर विंडो फॉर क्वेरी सेशन हैज बीन ओपन्ड। आप लोग अपनी अपनी क्वेरीज नोट डाउन कर सकते हो। फेसबुक पे जो लोग हैं वो लोग फेसबुक पे अपनी क्वेरी को रखिए। जूम पे जो लोग हैं यू कैन पुट डाउन इन जूम, राइट? हमारे पास और 12 मिनट है क्वेरीज के लिए। चलिए, जय किशन जी, लोगों ने लिखा है दैट वाज अ वंडरफुल प्रेजेंटेशन, और काफी अभिनंदन आपको दिया है आपके डेटा के स्टडी के लिए।
Thank you.
राइट। कुछ लोगों का जय किशन जी क्वेरी था कि हम निवेश कर सकते हैं क्या, और वो आपने कवर भी कर लिया अपने प्रेजेंटेशन में, राइट? तो अभी मैं नेक्स्ट क्वेरी देख लेता हूं। Yeah, your queries can be on this international market along with top quality companies with presentation you have seen with प्रशांत खरे जी। इन दोनों सब्जेक्ट पे हम लोग बात करेंगे। ओके, अवनीश दवे जी। ओके, अवनीश दवे ने लिखा है, जय किशन जी, एक क्वेरी आपके लिए है, हाउ टू इन्वेस्ट नीड्स लिटिल मोर इंफॉर्मेशन। तो अवनीश दवे जी मेरे ख्याल से इंटरनेशनल की बातें, इंटरनेशनल मार्केट पे ही आपको पूछ रहे हैं कि मैं कैसे निवेश कर सकता हूँ, राइट? या
Sir, like as I mentioned, like RBI is allowing Indians to invest up to $250,000 in international markets, in stocks, in ETFs, and mutual funds. There are banks in India like HDFC, Kotak, Axis, ICICI. They have tied up with brokers abroad, and if he contacts one of these banks, they can guide him, set up his account, and help him to invest in international markets also. And some of the brokers are also giving you a platform where you can invest in fractional shares. Like supposing if you find Amazon at 3,500 to be too much, so you can buy 0.25 of Amazon also. That is also possible with certain brokers and this thing. So if you contact your bank who's into international markets, I definitely know HDFC Bank, Kotak, ICICI, and Tarun ji had mentioned Access is also there, these 4 banks. You can contact them and they'll be able to guide you to invest in the international markets.
Yeah, thank you, Jaikishan ji. Okay. So Saurav ji has written, excellent walkthrough. One query. Even though we foresee such high future growth forecast for these US companies, why the suggested portfolio allocation is only 1 to 2% maximum? Shouldn't the allocation be more? Yes, Jaikishan ji.
Saurabh ji, it's a good question, but if you remember, like the assumption that we had made is the Indian investor is investing for the first time. He's making a foray into the international markets. And what we had suggested is that if you had 100, you would put in 10% aside to invest in the international markets. So we have 10% to invest in the international markets, and that is how we have given the portfolio allocation.
Right, absolutely correct. So सौरभ जी, हमने जय किशन जी को खाली 10 रुपया दिया था आज कि अभी आपको जो खर्चा करना है ये 10 रुपए से में से करना पड़ेगा, तो वो 10 में से फिर वो 1-2% ही देंगे, राइट? क्योंकि हम जानते ही है कि जो सबसे फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी वो कोई और है, ये म्यूटेड इकोनॉमी में परफॉर्म कर रही है, राइट? सो दैट्स गुड कि म्यूटेड इकोनॉमी में परफॉर्म कर रही है, पर हमें ज्यादा ध्यान टॉप ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी पे रखना है। तो मेजर हमारा जो पैसा है वो ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी पे आ रहा है, राइट? थैंक यू। ओके, मनसुख लाल जी ने लिखा है, काइंडली इन्फॉर्म बाइंग रेंज एंड एलोकेशन ऑफ टॉप क्वालिटी कंपनीज। तो प्रशांत जी, ये क्वेरी आपके लिए है। मनसुख लाल जी।
या मनसुख लाल जी ने सर बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न पूछा है बाइंग रेंज के लिए, पर जो हमारी कंपनी है सर, आप जानते हैं कि प्राइजेज आर डायनामिक, पल पल पे बदलती रहती है। फिर हम पीछे आते हैं प्रॉफिट, जो क्वार्टर के अंदर थोड़ा बहुत जो कम ज्यादा होना है, ट्रेंड सेट करने का है, कैसा क्या है क्या नहीं है। फिर उसके पहले हम आते हैं सेल्स के ऊपर, जो साल भर में 1-2 बार कम ज्यादा देखने को मिलती है। फिर आते हैं जीडीपी, जो सबसे कम वोलेटाइल है। तो मैं यदि वो हर महीने कमाते हैं और हर महीना सिप करते हैं, तो जो हमने टॉप क्वालिटी कंपनीज जो बताई हैं और जो आगे आके मुनीर जी बताने वाला है किस हिसाब से पोर्टफोलियो में अलोकेशन करना है, तो ये क्योंकि क्या है कि हम लोगों ने जो कंपनियां बताई हैं सर, वो जब भी उनका सेल हर साल बढ़ता है, हर साल प्रॉफिट बढ़ता है, हर साल नया हाई लगता है, पर जब भी मंथली लो तोड़े ये कंपनियां, तो इनको करेक्शन मोड में वो खरीद सकते हैं। कम से कम इतना हम बता सकते हैं, क्योंकि बाइंग रेंज के लिए सर मुझे अलग से फिर डिटेल देना पड़ेंगे जो अभी फिलहाल नहीं है।
बराबर है, बिल्कुल सही बात है। और हमारा अभी वो गोल भी नहीं है कि एग्जैक्ट बाइंग रेंज पे चले, क्योंकि एग्जैक्ट बाइंग रेंज इतना काम का नहीं है। मुझे खुद को याद नहीं है मैंने जुबिलेंट 10 साल पहले, वोल्टास 10 साल पहले, अल्ट्राटेक कितने भाव पे लिए, राइट? हो सकता है कुछ ने 200 पे लिए, किसी ने 100 पे लिए, आज भाव 3000 है। क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर मैंने 200 पे लिए, 500 पे लिया, 100 पे लिए, राइट?
सर बस
अच्छी कंपनियों
को हमें एक्यूमुलेट करना है सर, और हमें एक ही नजर रखना है उनका ईपीएस बढ़ रहा है कि नहीं। यानी आपके पोर्टफोलियो में आपके हिस्से में क्या आ रहा है, ईपीएस ही आता है सर। वो जो हर साल बढ़ता है तो आपका वेल्थ तो वैसे ही क्रिएट होना है सर।
राइट, बिल्कुल सही बताया प्रशांत जी ने। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच। और मनसुख लाल जी ध्यान रखिएगा, मुनीर आने वाला है, और आज के जितने भी प्रेजेंटर है उसमें सबसे बड़ी उम्र का व्यक्ति है मुनीर, 20-21 साल का होगा और पोर्टफोलियो में कमाल करने वाला है। सो वी आर गोइंग टू हियर टू हिम। रेशमा मैडम, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर कमेंट। ओके, आयुष जायसवाल आपने लिखा है हाउ टू इन्वेस्ट इन इंटरनेशनल कंपनी। मेरे ख्याल से जयकिशन जी हैव कवर्ड दिस कमेंट। भरत पोपलानी जी, सर एग्जैक्टली हाउ कैन वी इन्वेस्ट इन इंटरनेशनल स्टॉक मार्केट। तो जैसा जयकिशन जी ने बताया, आप जैसे इंडियन मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करते हो, यू कैन कॉन्टेक्ट योर ब्रोकर टू इन्वेस्ट इन इंटरनेशनल मार्केट, राइट। आप कर पाओगे भरत भाई, कुछ रिस्ट्रिक्शंस है, वो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस को पार करके कर पाओगे। नीरज गर्ग, हाउ डू वी सी द रिस्क ऑन रूपी डिवैल्यूएशन इन 10 years। ये थोड़ा आपके ग्रोथ को खा सकता है, राइट। पर यहाँ पे जयकिशन जी ने जो कंपनियां ली है वो ऑलरेडी हाई ग्रोथ है, और जयकिशन जी ने कंजर्वेटिव ग्रोथ लिया है। तो हर एक स्टॉक में मेरे ख्याल से जयकिशन जी ने ग्रोथ जो आपको बताया वो कम ही बताया है। सो ये वहां पे सेट हो जाएगा, राइट नीरज जी। ओके, चिंतन देसाई जी ने पूछा है नेम ऑफ प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर इंटरनेशनल मार्केट। दिस वाज कवर्ड बाय जयकिशन जी। ओम ने लिखा है एज पर जीडीपी डेटा यूएस जीडीपी इज म्यूटेड बट यूएस स्टॉक ग्रोथ इज वेरी हाई। ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है ओम जी, ये कुछ सिलेक्टेड कंपनियां हैं जिनका हमने ग्रोथ निकाला है। ओवरऑल जो कंपनीज का ग्रोथ है वो तो जीडीपी को ही रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा। पर आपने नहीं देखा कि जीडीपी इंडिया का -7.5% है, लेकिन निफ्टी 50 का कितना था, 4% प्लस था ना। ऐसा ही आपको इन कंपनियों में लगेगा, क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैग्निफिसेंट 7 यानी टॉप की 7 कंपनी जयकिशन जी ने पसंद की हुई है, राइट। ओके, मैं फेसबुक की क्वेरी लेता हूं मिस्टर संजय मैंगशेट्टी की। along with rupees devaluation inflation also we have to consider। वो तो हर एक में आएगा ही संजय भाई, बराबर है, पर इस चीज को भी हम नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन में देखने वाले हैं। ओके, बैक टू योर जूम क्वेरी। दीपक पटेल, इज दिस बाइंग प्राइस फॉर एप्पल, ब्रिटानिया एंड बायोकॉन। नहीं दीपक भाई, हमने बाइंग प्राइस पे तो अभी तक कोई चर्चा की नहीं है। हमने तो खाली ये बताया कि एप्पल अपने सेक्टर में कितना स्टार रेटिंग है। देखो, अगर प्रशांत जी ने 5 स्टार रेटिंग दिया हुआ है तो मतलब कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है, पैसा डाल सकते हैं। अगर कहीं पे 2 स्टार रेटिंग है, जैसा आपने कई कंपनी में देखा, मतलब कुछ जगह पे वो मार खा रही है कंपनी, तो वहां पे थोड़ा कम पैसा लगाना है हमें, राइट दीपक भाई। सागर जी, इंटरनेशनल स्टॉक्स कैन बाय फ्रॉम आईसी। कितना बाकी है? 2 मिनट। धन्यवाद पार्था जी,
थैंक यू।
या सागर जी ने लिखा है इंटरनेशनल स्टॉक कैन बाय फ्रॉम आईसीआईसी डायरेक्ट। या बिल्कुल सही बात है, आईसीसी, एचडीएफसी, कई जगह है जहां से आप ले पाओगे। सुभाष पोंकिया, एंजल्स ब्रोकिंग एप्लीकेशन, या एब्सोल्युटली आपके ब्रोकर्स अलाउ करेंगे। ओके, अवनीश दवे, कैन वी हैव चार्ट ऑफ इंडियन कंपनीज लाइक जयकिशन जी मेंशन फॉर इंटरनेशनल कंपनीज। तो अवनीश जी, यहाँ पे क्या है, जयकिशन जी के पास 7 कंपनी थी, इसीलिए हम सारी 7 कंपनी की डिटेल में गए, फेयर वैल्यू बताया और चार्ट बताया। पर आपके पास इंडियन कंपनी में कितने सेक्टर्स थे और कितनी सारी कंपनीज थी, तो सबका हम चार्ट नहीं बता सकते थे, तो प्रेजेंटेशन में चार्ट इंक्लूड नहीं किया है। लेकिन अवनीश जी, आपको इन सारी कंपनियों की फेयर वैल्यू मिल जाएगी, राइट। लेट मी कंफर्म। ओके, आपको इन सारी कंपनी की फेयर वैल्यू मिलेगी, और आप जानते ही हो जब भी हम फेयर वैल्यू देते हैं हम चार्ट भी सबका देते ही है, राइट। सो रॉ डेटा में मिलेगा पर प्रेजेंटेशन में इंक्लूड नहीं कर पाएंगे अवनीश जी, बराबर है। थैंक यू। ओके, भरत भाई का क्वेरी है। ओके, जयकिशन जी, इट्स फॉर यू। टेस्ला, if you are not driving your car, you can run it as a robo taxi, right?
Let me clarify to Bharat ji, like what Tesla is trying to do is they are trying to solve the full self-driving solution. So what they want is, today what they have achieved so far is, if you install their full self-driving software in your Tesla, the car can drive itself and it is as safe as a human being driving. But Elon Musk hasn't gone to the regulators as yet. He wants to go to the regulators with the data. And once Tesla is 10 times safer than a human driving, okay, safety is his #1 priority. So what happens is, once he solves this self-driving thing and the regulators approve it, then there's a possibility or an option opens up as a revenue stream for Tesla and as the owner of the Tesla car for you to use it as a robo-taxi and earn money. So if this thing happens, the industries which could be, or the companies which could be impacted is Uber and Lyft, and to a certain extent, Ola in India. So you need to be aware of this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jaikishan ji. And one more query for you. Ayush Jaiswal has raised a query. Which site we can get financial data of international companies like we used to search in BSC India? Yes, please.
So it is very, very difficult. In fact, we ourselves are looking for a good site where we can get this data from. Okay, we have tried certain sites. QuickFS is one of them, but that will give you data for the last 10 years or so. Okay, but as Piyush sir has mentioned, the annual reports of those companies are the best place to get the data from.
Yeah, thank you, Jaikishan ji. And Chintan Desai, as you have said, you are absolutely right. 10% we can allocate to international market and keep 90% for a domestic high growth country. That's India, right? Yeah, correct, Chintan bhai. Okay, Sagar bhai, so everything's answer is Google. कुछ भी पूछो Google को, तो यहाँ पे भी Google भी आपके लिए एक इन्वेस्टमेंट का जरिया जरूर है, right? So it was amazing presentation and amazing question answer session. Thank you very much to everyone.
नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन जो रहेगा वो एकदम पावर पैक रहेगा मुनीर का, क्योंकि आज का जो सब कुछ नॉलेज है आज का, वो आपको 30 मिनट्स में मिलेगा कि पोर्टफोलियो में एग्जैक्टली क्या करना है।